guys, welcome back to Posh Plastic. I'm Amber, and this is my co-host Kylie, the Serena to my Blair.
Hey guys.
So this is the second of 3 episodes being released today, so if you guys are tuning back in, welcome back. And if this is your first episode, be sure to check out the other 2 that we have available, and be sure to rate the pod.
Yes, if you are here in the first few weeks of our podcast launching, we're doing a giveaway. Be sure to visit our Instagram to see what the prize is. And I'm going to tell you really quick how to enter. We just need you to rate and review the podcast, take a screenshot of your review, and send it in to our email, poshandplastic@gmail.com, all spelled out, or just shoot it to us in the DMs. But yeah, we are excited to continue on. So wind up, wind down, and let's hit rewind.
Okay. All right, Kylie. So let's start with the 90s. What do you have for us today?
All right. So today I am going to be talking about the hit television show All That. All That is basically a kid's version of SNL. IMDb describes it as a zany sketch comedy featuring many wacky characters hosted for kids and by kids. There have been a few resurgences of the show, but the original one that aired in the 90s is unmatched, and it was filled with impeccable talent, as at least coming from me.
Totally.
It first aired in 1994 on Nickelodeon, and it was part of a true era that Nickelodeon was at the time. So my resources for today are IMDb, Wikipedia, of course, NickelodeonFandom.com, YouTube, and good old Paramount Plus. So, in the 80s, there was a Canadian teen sketch comedy show called You Can't Do That on Television. This eventually, and early on, made its way to the United States, and it was a huge hit. It was canceled in 1990, and at this point, Nickelodeon knew they needed sketch comedy to keep going on strong with the network. So in 1992, they released a comedy show called Roadhouse. Once doing this, Nickelodeon execs talked to the producers, Mike Tollin and Brian Robbins, who now, by the way, is the CEO of Paramount Pictures. So in this time, he's worked his way all the way to the top. Anyway, Nickelodeon had asked them to come up with another sketch comedy show that would be a kid's version of Saturday Night Live, and they got right to work. Auditions were held to cast the funniest kids for this new show. Through auditions, Kenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell, Elisa Reyes, Katrina Johnson, and Josh Server were casted for the show. Angelique Bates was also casted through auditions after doing an impression of Steve Urkel. And additionally, Lori Beth Denberg, one of my favorites, was casted after being discovered at a drama competition. And this was back in the day where television shows were often filmed in front of live studio audiences. Nickelodeon was known for their studios being located in Orlando, Florida. Fun
Shout
fact,
out.
that's where Amber and I met. We both lived there. So now that they had their cast ready to go and they were recording episodes, Nickelodeon gave a preview screening of their new show, All That, on April 16th, 1994. It was a huge hit, and the show officially began airing on December 24th after Nickelodeon canceled Roadhouse. The R&B group, legendary TLC, performed the theme song for All That and gave music performances at the end of 2 out of the first 3 episodes. And there was a act at the end of each episode, much like on SNL. Unfortunately, if you go back and watch them now on streaming, they have to cut out those because they don't have the copyright to the songs. But
What?
I remember watching them on Nickelodeon back in the day, and they were awesome. But yeah. And additionally, they had a skit called Vital Information. which modeled after the SNL weekly update that still goes on today. In 1996, Angelique Bates left the show and a little girl named Amanda Bynes entered. In 1997, more changes came about as Katrina Johnson and Elisa Reyes left the show, and Danny Tamborelli, Leon Frierson, and Christy Knowings joined the cast. In 1998, Lori Beth left, and Nick Cannon came on. We all know Nick Cannon, him
Of
and
course.
his 12 children. 1999 was when the majority of the cast left and they got their own gigs with the network. And this generation of all that ends in the year 2000. So while they had the SNL layout, all that held its own in terms of variants of skits enjoyed by children all over the United States. So I wanted to list some of the more notable sketches of the show. So they had Dolmont Junior High. It was a skit about kids going through the daily struggles as a middle school student in a school where weird things tend to happen due to peculiar faculty played by the kids. One of my favorites is Everyday French with Pierre Escargot. This one's where Kenan is in a bathtub wearing a raincoat and he's giving like French lessons that are just very random statements. And I just remember Kenan's goofy smile. It's hilarious throughout the whole skit. There's also the USS Spaceship. This was a spoof of Star Trek. They were in a spaceship. Amanda Bynes is the captain of the ship, and she's like acting very childish, like crying when she doesn't get her way. There's the Loud Librarian, which was played by Lori Beth. She was always doing crazy things that were extremely loud in her library. And like she would do karate or like make bacon, talking on the phone. And I remember even had a bullfight at one point.
Oh my God.
So that one was just wild. I loved Lori Beth. She was hilarious. Then we had The Adventures of Super Dude. And I did not remember this one until I went back and started watching it again. And I saw the title Super Dude versus the Milkman. And I immediately remembered that one. And then Ask Ashley was my favorite. Do you remember that one?
I think so, yeah. Like the column. Yes.
Yes. So Amanda Bynes is in her bedroom and she gets letters in from fans asking for advice. And she'd start out all sweet, but then she'd like get into her answer and she'd be like yelling and calling them idiots and stuff. I love that one so much.
Yes. That one's one of my favorites.
Oh, yes, me too. That is like my top. The cast was really made up of some impeccable talent that went on to do, and it still is doing some incredible things. So I wanted to take the time to highlight the cast because they've gone on to great success, like a lot of them. So let's start with Kenan Thompson. I feel like Kenan has gone in the route most of us would expect the cast of all that to go. So Kenan had multiple projects going on around the time that all that aired. He also did some Disney movies. He did Heavyweights, my family favorite movie. He also did The Mighty Ducks. So he was on both major children's programming networks at that time. Pretty impressive. And
Yeah, and I
after
guess
all
I
that,
didn't
he
know
went
that.
on. I don't think I didn't register that as a kid, but
Right.
looking back, it's like, wow, yeah, he was kind of everywhere.
Yeah, totally.
After all that, he went on to do Kenan and Kel with his co-star Kel Mitchell. We'll dive into that in a little bit after I'm done with Kenan, so we'll table this for now. Now, his resume is so extensive, I don't have time to read off every single credit on his IMDb, so I'm just going to do a quick highlight reel. Okay, so he does some smaller roles here and there, and then he gets his big movie break as the lead in Fat Albert. After that, he continues with some smaller roles here and there, working more into the adult targeted audience and growing away from the children's programming, which is natural as, he's an adult by this time. Then we find Mr. Thompson on the one and only Saturday Night Live. So he's gone full circle here. And yeah, I always thought that was so cool to see him go from all that to finally making it to SNL. Then he gets his own sitcom titled, wait for it, Kenan. So he's made up, fam. Mic drop, nothing else for him to do. I'm sure there's more for him to do, but if he wanted to retire today, I feel like he's completed his career. All right, so I need to be mindful of the time here, so we'll go ahead and move on to Kel Mitchell. So Kenan and Kel had real chemistry when it came to the comedy, which is why they were given their own spin-off. And this also led to a huge movie, Good Burger, and shout out, Good Burger 2 just came out too. So if you're wanting to watch that, it's on Paramount Plus.
Oh.
And the duo stars as the leads. Kel gave a phenomenal performance in this movie with his legendary quote, also from the skit in the show, "Welcome to the Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?"
Ah, yes.
He also starred in the feature film Rocky and Bullwinkle alongside Kenan. And there was a hoax at one point about him passing away.
Oh my God.
Which is weird because according to his IMDb, he has stayed working. But he's done some guest starring and a lot of voice acting, which honestly a lot of people are getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Another great cast member, frankly, I feel is underrated, was Lori Beth Denberg. She was also in Good Burger, and after all that, she starred in The Steve Harvey Show. She was in 67 episodes. And she's been doing some other projects here and there,
Wow.
including Dodgeball and Hollywood Darlings, which was, I don't know what network that was on, but it had Beverly Mitchell, Jodie Sweetin, and Christine Lakin from Step by Step. So it's kind of like, it was like a mockumentary type show, I think, like kind of like The Office, but it's like, former 90s stars.
That's kind of cool. Now I want to go find that because I'm
Tamborelli.
curious.
Yeah, I tried to watch it. It was okay.
Okay. So
But
I shouldn't be like,
it's interesting to seeing them.
okay, so I won't get my hopes up about it then.
Yeah. It's okay. I'll say that. Danny Tamborelli was another popular cast member, and before even getting that role, he had built a career for himself. He did 11 episodes of a show called Ryan's Hope, and he played Jackie in 9 episodes of, wait for the throwback, The Babysitter's Club.
Wow. I didn't know that was a show. I thought it was just a book series. So that's interesting.
You've never seen it?
No, I just read the
my
books.
Gosh. It might be on Netflix, and if it is still on there, I'm sending it to you. I used to watch that all the time.
Wait, I have every streaming service.
Good.
So wherever it is, just send it to me. I probably have the streaming service.
Yeah, look it up. And there was a movie too.
Wait.
I have to say, Claudia was my favorite babysitter.
Oh yeah, I loved Claudia. I remember her from the books. That's one thing. I read the books. I was a Scholastic Book Fair girly, so I bought those books when I could get my money to the Scholastic Book Fair.
She always had the chicest earrings. I loved her. So Danny also starred in The Adventures of Pete and Pete. He played little Pete Wrigley. And around the time of that, he too was in the Mighty Ducks. And after all that, he's done some screen acting and a handful of voice acting, including Grand Theft Auto, the video games.
I don't know why that makes me laugh.
King. Elisa Reyes was in the first 3 seasons and returned to the show with Lori Beth for its most recent reboot in 2020. Elisa has had a versatile career post all that. She moved on to starring in a show called One World about foster kids living under one roof, coming from all sorts of backgrounds. And she's even been in a handful of soap operas, including One Life to Live and Passions. Those, from what I've heard, are intense to film because they are episodes every day. So the fact that she can do some serious drama and sketch comedy is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's hard to do both of those types of things. Usually, like, it's hard to be able to differentiate, like, comedy versus, like, serious dramatic
Right.
roles. So the fact that she can do both is crazy. That's awesome.
Right. Talent. All right. Amanda Bynes is a well known name. She really stood out on the show because she was the youngest, but she carried her own when it came to providing laughs. So when all that was canceled, Nickelodeon gave her her very own sketch comedy show, The Amanda Show. And that
Yeah.
really put Amanda in the top spot. She moved on to do the movie Big Fat Liar with Frankie Muniz, who was the child actor to be working with at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Then she started moving into doing girly teeny bopper movies, giving Queen Hilary Duff a run for her money. She did What a Girl Wants, and of course the iconic cult classic, She's the Man, where she really got to display her comedic talent. Then she was actually casted as a lead in the sitcom What I Like About You alongside Jenny Garth as her sister. And she's also known for her roles in Hairspray, Sydney White, and Easy A. And she studied fashion at my dream school, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, aka FITM, where Lauren Conrad went as well.
Shout out Fitum.
I wanted to go there for interior design, not fashion. I'm not basic, guys, but that was my
Oh.
dream school. Okay, and I saved this one for last because I feel like him and Kenan are the biggest names, which is saying a lot because a lot of these names are massive. But Mr. Nick Cannon, I have to say his IMDb page took a minute for me to figure out how to even navigate through it to find his acting credits because he does a lot of producing. That man stays working, which it's a no wonder how he can afford 12 kids because he has so many credits. Most famous these days for being a father of 12, I feel like, but he is a career man too. Nick Cannon actually came onto the cast a little bit later in the game, but did just a great job in his skits. I vaguely remember being a little kid and noticing him being new, but I do remember like him being introduced. And then he was hosting Snick, which was the Saturday Night Nick programming on Nickelodeon. And that was targeted towards tweens. And later they changed the name to Teen Nick and had it on Sundays. Do you remember
Yes.
that?
Yes, I was gonna say you literally
Like the
like
Snick
unlocked a
House?
memory. Yes.
Yeah. And with that, he got his own sketch comedy spinoff, The Nick Cannon Show, that was on Snick. He also debuted his rap career doing a song with Lil Romeo and 3LW called Parents Just Don't Understand, which was actually a cover of the Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff's version.
That doesn't
Do you
surprise me.
remember that music video?
I don't, but this honestly,
Uh,
what my comment was going to be, this is so Will Smith of him because Will Smith's rap career was so clean. So like this is I was going to say it. So
Literally, it was a remake of that song.
so funny.
Uh, he started he started starring in teen films when he did Drumline and Love Don't Cost a Thing. He's done so much. I can't even put it together, but after these films, he stuck with his Viacom family. For those who don't know, Nickelodeon is under an umbrella network, Viacom. And he went over to MTV, which is under the same umbrella, and created the improv show Nick Cannon's Wild and Out. He has previously hosted on America's Got Talent, and now you can catch him hosting The Masked Singer. And by the way, Wild and Out is still up and running, and that has been on forever because I think I was a freshman in high school when that first started.
Yeah. I didn't know it was still running.
So,
I know they play it on MTV because it was an MTV show, but I didn't know it was still like new episodes. So that's interesting.
yeah. All that resulted in many spin-off shows for their cast, including Kenan and Kel. So I'm going to run through because all that kind of launched this Nickelodeon multiverse. And I may not even go as deep as it can go because I got old and stopped watching Nickelodeon, but I'm going to go as far as I can. So all that resulted in many spin-off shows for their cast. We have Kenan and Kel for Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell. Nick Cannon hosted The Snick and got The Nick Cannon Show. And of course, Miss Amanda got The Amanda Show. So these were all rightfully given to them. Then we had The Amanda Show develop into its own little universe, and it basically took over for all that in the time before it was rebooted.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was mainly Amanda with side characters, but eventually the side characters became more familiar with the audience, and we started loving them as well as the fans. So we got Drake Bell and Josh Peck becoming the most popular, and they were a dynamic duo, really, in the show. And eventually, they were given their own show titled Drake and Josh. And Drake and Josh was a huge show, one of the most watched series on the Nickelodeon network. It went for 4 seasons, and it introduced a new child actor, Miranda Cosgrove, who played their little sister, Megan Parker. And Miranda was a comedic genius when it came to this character. I look back now because you see her in the public, either interviews or even what I'm going to get into in a second here. She seems like a sweetheart, but Megan was so devious, and you see that and you're like, holy crap, she was probably like 7 or 8 years old, and she was an incredible actress.
You're right. Yeah, because her actual personality as a person seems very sweet, very just, soft, whereas Megan was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
She was a demon.
She's evil. Yes, a demon is a good word for it. So she really played into Megan well.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, once Drake and Josh began to fall off, Miranda was given her own show, iCarly. iCarly was pretty successful in itself, and it presented competition for Nickelodeon's rival network, the Disney Channel, as their peak of, Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place era was dying down. So Carly lived with her brother Spencer, played by Jerry Trainer, who also played Crazy Steve on Drake and Josh.
Oh my god.
And she ran Cock-a-doodle-doo, the cow goes boo.
He was so good. Come on, Dora. I don't have the map. You do. He was so good.
That was great. So in iCarly, she's running this webcam show with her friends Freddie and Sam, and this is before, this is the normal in our society with YouTube and everything. So this was like top notch back then. But yeah, Sam was played by child actress Jeanette McCurdy. And so we're going to pause here on that side because we have to go off of this family tree for a bit to continue the multiverse. So around the same time as Drake and Josh, there was a little show called Zoey What? Zoey.
It's okay.
There was a show called Zoey 101. Did I say that right this time?
You did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This starred the little sister of icon and our queen, Britney Spears, who was actually part of the second generation cast of all that. And in this second season, a child actor named Victoria Justice was added to the cast. Eventually, Victoria was given her own show, Victorious, and it was about a group of teens attending a performing arts school in Hollywood and working on their crafts to eventually become famous. And the most notable actress to come out of this show was a young Ariana Grande who played Kat. So iCarly and Victorious had crossover episodes, and this was a really big deal for Nickelodeon at the time, kind of copying Disney Channel with their crossover episodes. But this eventually led them to creating the spin-off of both shows, and they created Sam and Cat. So that's where I'm going to end it. I'm not sure if there's more to this web, but this web started in the 90s and ended in the 2010s. So, in conclusion, what a legacy for the original All That has left for the network. And also the amount of careers that have been able to start because of it.
That's wild. No, like it's fun to see how it evolved from All That to all these other shows and how it just like spanned out because I
Right.
didn't realize it all spanned quite literally from All That. It's crazy.
Yeah, really, like it launched so many careers, and we went from sketch comedy to like
Scripted
sitcoms.
shows.
So,
Yeah, scripted sitcom. It's
yeah,
crazy.
the development. But yeah, so that is what I have this week on All That. And Amber, what do you have for us today?
All right. So, I'm going to start by giving a quote. We'll see if you guys can figure out what I'm talking about today. It's pretty straightforward. So, me, a princess? Shut up! Okay.
Oh, love it so much.
So if that quote didn't already give it away, today I'll be talking about the movie The Princess Diaries. If you're a millennial girly like Kylie and I, then this movie is a class 2000s staple, which means it obviously deserves a spot on the pod. So let's get into it. So, The Princess Diaries made its debut on the big screen on August 3rd, 2001. The movie did exceptionally well, grossing $22,862,269 in the opening weekend and $165,334,774. I don't know why that was hard to say there. In the worldwide box office. So it did very well.
Wow.
165 million worldwide. And so the movie screenplay was written by Gina Windkos, but was also loosely based on Meg Cabot's book, also titled The Princess Diaries. And Cabot's agent actually pursued Deborah Chase, one of the co-producers of the movie, about the idea of adapting the book to film. And Deborah Chase read the book. Yeah. Isn't that cool? So it wasn't the opposite way. It was actually the book writer was, or the book writer and their agent was actually pursuing the book to film, which I feel is the opposite of what kind of happens now. Like, I don't feel like that happens as often. Usually people are seeking out the book, like, author. Yeah, and Deborah Chase, she read the book and she loved it so much that she convinced Disney to adapt the book to a feature-length production. So Deborah Chase had some pull in Disney. The film was greenlit by Disney, who agreed to co-produce with, wait for it, guys, Whitney Houston and Brown House Productions.
Shut up. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so she co-produced, and fun fact, when I was digging around, I found out that she also had a hand with her production company producing the Brandy starring Cinderella remake. And
oh, she was the fairy godmother, so that makes sense.
Oh, you're right. Oh my god, duh. And another cult classic, The Cheetah Girls.
I think I knew that one.
I think you did. I think you told me about that. So go off, queen. So Deborah Chase helped develop the script with the help of screenwriter Gina Windkos. Cabot didn't have much of a hand in writing the film script, but she did work closely with Chase to make sure that the story was translating well from page to screen. And then Gary Marshall was brought on to direct the film, and another producer, Mario Iskovich, was also brought on to produce alongside Whitney Houston and Deborah Chase.
I'm sorry, say his name one more time.
Who, Gary Marshall or Mario Iskovich?
Oh, with a V. I thought it was a B.
Oh, Iskovich. It's me. I'm probably saying it weird. Oh, I need some water. Let me get some water.
Okay.
Oh. So I took a little quote from Wikipedia. Shout out Wikipedia. They're one of my sources that obviously you can't do anything without Wikipedia, I feel. And
For real.
they said that the Princess Diaries was optioned to challenge the belief that children were losing interest in live-action films targeted towards girls. And Marshall was hired specifically to make a G-rated film edgy and crazy and maybe something adults will also like. So I thought that was interesting.
I would say they hit the nail on the head with that one.
Right? Yeah, I think they did a great job. So, while adapting the main points, the movie differs slightly from the book, mainly by it being set in San Francisco versus New York, like in Cabot's book. So, the moving setting change was actually a shout out to Gary Marshall's granddaughters as they grew up in San Francisco. So, I thought that was sweet.
Oh.
Yeah. And the movie was actually originally set to be called The Princess of Tribeca, which, yuck, I don't like that. I'm glad they changed it. I don't feel like that rolls off the tongue as well. You know what I mean?
That's very boring.
Yeah, it sounds stuck up. It doesn't sound like a fun, girly movie that I would want to watch. So I'm glad that they didn't stick with something so rigid. And it sounds like it's coming from a point of view of somebody like writing it out. And I think that, if I recall, because I did read these books back in the day, I think that was kind of the style of the book. So the adaptation kind of feels the same way. So I think they did a good job with that adaptation. Little tidbit there.
100%.
So for the casting, we have Anne Hathaway. She was cast as the lead. Mia, and that was actually after Juliette Lewis, who the part was originally written for, turned down the role. And Anne Hathaway was actually 18 at the time, and this was her first major role in a movie. She was actually cast during a 26-hour layover to LA on her way to New Zealand to film a different movie. That was actually going to be her breakout movie. It ended up being The Princess Diaries.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so another little fun fact that I found when I was researching is that, so a lot of young actresses were considered for this role. Even one of them being a young Christy Carlson Romano.
I wasn't going to bring her up, but
yeah, so
I know this story.
Yeah, and she unfortunately was unable to go audition as her schedule with Even Stevens was just too busy at the time. Did she recently talk about this in her podcast? I haven't listened.
No, she did. This was before she got into the podcasting. She had like this series where she was doing like tell-alls while she's walking in the woods, and it was like a lot of name dropping and stuff, and people are starting to come out against her, so I'll just speak freely on this. But she spoke about it and pretty much said that the only reason Anne Hathaway got the role was because she missed her opportunity to go audition.
I don't love that. I don't love that for her.
Yeah, Katy Perry also stole her record deal she was definitely going to get.
Okay.
These were the stories she was telling, so.
I mean, I thought it was going to be like actual tea, like, because I was like, when you said it, when she was like name dropping, I was like, ooh, I want to listen. But now, I couldn't even care less.
No, she does it for clickbait. That's all she does it for.
Well, yeah, I noticed that too. And low-key, I feel the same way right now about Annalise Vanderpool.
Mm-hmm.
Because she hasn't given anything.
I'm really sad about that one because I really liked her, but
me too.
Yeah. I'm same story.
It's sad because I'm sure they actually have some stuff that really did happen to them, but they aren't articulating it correctly, and it's losing them people and followers because they're not articulating the right way.
Right.
So, that sucks. Ugh. So
Anyway,
anyway.
back to your story.
So the movie was not only Anne Hathaway's first big movie role, but it was also a chance to introduce Julie Andrews as a actress to a new generation of fans. So Julie Andrews was cast as Queen Clarice after she had been semi-retired and acting for some time at this point. So Andrews hadn't been in a featured film for 15 years prior, and The Princess
Wow.
Diaries, right? 15 years. And The Princess Diaries was also her first film with Disney since Mary Poppins in 1964, which is crazy. And just to piggyback one more fact off of that, because I saw something else, the film lot that they actually filmed Princess Diaries on was the same lot that they filmed Mary Poppins on. It was, I think, lot 2.
How
And
magical.
yeah, and they actually deemed it Julie Andrews lot. It's named after her now.
Aw. Aw.
So I thought that was sweet. And I love her, so a true queen. So next we have Heather Matarazzo. I'm probably butchering that, but that's fine. Sorry. She was cast as Mia's best friend, Lily Moscovitz, after casting director Marcia Ross introduced Gary and Heather and insisted that Heather was different than other actresses. So I thought that was interesting. They said she was quirky, she was really fun, she was easy to be around and easy to work with, and her and Heather and Gary really just jived together. So I thought that was cool.
I could see her being that way.
Totally. She seems so fun. I've seen interviews of her and I've seen her TikToks and stuff. She's fun. I know she had I think a tough time with acting because I think she tried to break out, if I remember correctly.
Probably. I feel like most actors do.
Yeah, especially the ones that are kind of secondary to the main role. I feel like they have a harder time getting cast into anything else afterwards. It's kind of sad. And then next we have Hector Elizondo. Wow, I hate this for me. Hector Elizondo. And he was cast as Joe, Mia's limo driver, and Clarice's head of security. And then fun fact about him also is Hector is known for appearing in all 18 of Gary Marshall's films that he directed. So if you're looking for something fun to do, go watch all the 18 films and try to see if you can spot Hector Elizondo.
He was in something that I was watching, and it had somebody from this movie in it as well. I can't remember what the movie was or who the other person was, but I remember thinking, he looks so familiar. Who is he? So I IMDb'd him. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And then I realized he was in the same movie as this person.
That's so funny. I know I've seen him in something else, so I guess whatever I saw must have been a Gary Marshall film, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then there were so many great actors and actresses in this movie, but just to round out with one more, because I couldn't not talk about her, it was Mandy Moore. She was cast as Lana, Mia's school rival, and this was actually Mandy Moore's first credited role in a movie. She was 16 at the time when she was cast. And she claimed she had no idea what she was doing, but she appreciated that most of the cast was around her same age. And that may seem like a general thing to say, but I think if you think about it, casting is so skewed nowadays. Like, people who look younger could be 40. You've got the guy who played Jackson in Hannah Montana. I think his name was Jason Earls. He was in his late 30s when they were 16.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just one of those kind of things. So I went and I did some movie review sleuthing, and I will say it was interesting. For this to be such a, well-known worldwide film, there were not that many actual reviews on it. Serious ones, I should say. There are a bunch of people, spoofing off here and there. I would say there's about 3 serious companies that did reviews, and then the rest are all parent-to-parent movie reviews to help make sure that we just don't traumatize the current youth, basically.
Yeah, but I don't think we were on it the way we are now, which is very toxic, by the way, but everyone just feels like they have to put their opinion online.
Yeah.
I think the internet was more of a a tool and a resource to research things and play games.
You're right, because honestly, the reviews I was finding, it's funny, the years they were reviewing were like 2012, 2011 was when they were putting these reviews in. So I was like, okay, this doesn't really count. I found one from 2004, and we'll get into it. But so I'll start with the most well-known review, like critic website, I would say Rotten Tomatoes. It gave the movie
Mhm.
an overall 49% on the tomato meter, whatever that means. um, but a 68% overall audience score. And the critic consensus was that it's a charming, if familiar, makeover movie for young teenage girls. And so I pulled a couple reviews, and the first one is from 2012 in July, and they gave the movie a 4 out of 5 stars, and they said, Anne Hathaway's breakout role. The movie has everything. Ugly duckling syndrome, a queen for a grandmother, a mother dating her teacher, obnoxious friends, and Mandy Moore as the ice princess. It's funny and romantic, filmed in San Francisco. I loved it. Julie Andrews' comeback to the screen brought charm and elegance. Andrews still has what it takes to make it a hit time after time. So that one was nice. And then this one
Yeah.
right after it, they gave a 2.5 out of 5 stars, and it was in 2012 as well. Or was the other one? Yeah, they were both in 2012, so it was just a few days prior. And this one said, I wish Mia Thermopolis wasn't Anne Hathaway. She did great acting and all, but a prettier actor perhaps. And I was like, did we need to have that opinion?
And I feel like she did great in that movie.
Yeah. No, I have two
I wouldn't
exceptions.
have Mia be casted as anybody but Anne Hathaway.
I don't know who else could have done it. Like, I don't see anybody else being it. I think because it was her first role, they were able to mold her so perfectly into like what they needed her to be, and her quirkiness kind of fell into that role. I think that was what gave her, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and she dedicated, like, when she's like, "Shut up!" Like, it's full on acting.
Yeah. So I found that interesting. And then IMDb also, they gave the movie an overall rating of 6.4 out of 10. And this was 2005. So there is a review from August 18th, 2005. They rated the movie 10 out of 10. And they said, I loved this movie. And although it may have been slightly cliche, the dialogue was quite smart and it was quite a funny movie. Quite. They must be British. Um, I think that if you expect the movie to be Oscar worthy, it'll obviously fall short. But as it only attempts to be a sweet story about a misfit 15-year-old turned princess, it completely lives up to its potential. I think Julie Andrews completely made the movie, and that Anne Hathaway also did an excellent job. The movie is great for people of all ages because it has a simplistic plot, yet it has one great one-liners and great repertoire. It says repartee between the character of the queen and the princess Mia. I also think that the minor characters are great, and because they provide even they and what the did this person write? I also think that the minor characters are great because they provide even more comic relief. Um, I think that one is honestly the most genuine one out of all the reviews I found, and I say that just because it's the most current to when the movie came out. It's only 4 years after. It literally basically 4 years to a T, August of 2005. So I feel like this is kind of how people were feeling around this time, especially women, because it seems like this is a woman, like a girl or a woman review.
Mhm.
And then, so another critic, another review rating company was called Metacritic, and they gave the movie an overall 7.9 out of 10. And I found a 3 out of 10 rating that someone gave it in 2012. And from what I got, it seems like it's a male point of view, which I think they just wanted to have their opinion on the internet. Because it
Mhm.
just says a recycled plot along with a string of other cliches make for a film that's a one-trick pony. Princess Diaries is only here to make preteen girls squeal, and that's all it does. That's all it's supposed to do.
Well, like, yes, it does that. I wouldn't even say squeal. I think
Yeah.
it's a great film for all women. I think it's got a strong sense of femininity, and
Hmm.
I first watched that movie. I remember we rented it from Blockbuster. I was in 5th grade and I had just had surgery,
Hmm.
minor surgery, but I had to go home and rest. So we rented that and I watched it. And I feel like that it's like a comfort movie now. So if I were sick and I would want to watch it, it would make me feel girly and like, I don't know, just comforted and girly. It's a very feminine movie, no matter what age you are.
Yeah, and it's also there's this power behind it, right? Because you see her kind of
Hmm.
overcome a lot of these adversities that she had in her life. So it really makes you feel it's a personable movie, right? You can see her
Right.
overcoming things that she truly was afraid of. And it's like, well, if she can do it, why can't I? So,
Yeah, it's very relatable. No, no matter what age you are, I feel like you can relate to her situation.
yeah, exactly. Um, and so I also just to close out the reviews, just for funsies, I wanted to give one of the parent to parent review scores. It's from a website called Common Sense, and they gave the movie 5 out of 5. Somebody said when I was 4, I watched this movie for the first time. So wow, 4.
Wow.
The movie was very cute, and Mia had the reaction of a wonderful 15-year-old when she's told she's a princess. My 2 daughters, 6 and 8, loved it. They felt it was really cute, and they loved King Fat Louie, which was the cat, for those who don't know. So, I will say, though, after reading all the reviews, I am somewhat surprised that the overall consensus is like a 6.8 out of 10, like, after you kind of average all of them together.
Yeah.
Um, because it seems like most people were rating the movie pretty high. I was getting 5 out of 5s, 10 out of 10s. So there must have just been some assholes who were rating it really, really low just to like drive that number down. And I think in
Yeah, oh
later
yeah.
years,
There always is.
so annoying. Yeah. So shout out to the internet. We love that. And then I'm just going to give a quick, movie synopsis plot. We've all seen the movie, but I would say most of us have. So if you haven't, don't worry. I'll give you a quick little synopsis with I don't think there's too many spoilers in here, but I mean, it's been since 2001, so if you haven't seen it, I'm so sorry. Maybe cut this part, pause, go watch and then come back. So, so we meet Mia Thermopolis, paid, played by Anne Hathaway. She is this super relatable, slightly awkward teenager living in San Francisco. Her mom, Helen, is a funky artist, and her best friend, Lily, is all about activism. Mia's life takes a wild turn when her estranged grandmother, Queen Clarice, played by the legendary Julie Andrews, shows up, and it turns out that Mia's dad was a prince, making her an heir to the throne of Genovia, a tiny European country. Say what? So now Grandma Clarice wants to turn Mia into the proper princess. Mia gets the whole Cinderella treatment with a glamorous makeover courtesy of Paolo, a stylist with a flair for the dramatics. Cue the iconic makeover scene. Mia's not exactly thrilled about trading in her Converse for glass slippers. As if high school wasn't complicated enough, Mia's dealing with major teenage stuff. She has a crush on Josh, shout out Erik von Detton, the popular guy, and her best friend's older brother, Michael, is also harboring some secret, serious feelings for her. Talk about a love triangle. I feel so cheesy. And then there's Lana, the resident mean girl, played by the iconic Mandy Moore, and she's making Mia's life way more dramatic than a Shakespearean play. I'm
I
sorry, I
love
just laugh
that.
at myself
I love
sometimes.
that.
Mia's journey of self discovery becomes this hilarious and heartwarming roller coaster full of royal etiquette lessons, awkward princess moments, and navigating the challenges of teenage romance. The climax hits when Mia has to make a tough choice between attending a fancy royal dinner and a casual beach party with her friends. It's a moment of truth, a defining decision that underscores the film's central theme of embracing who you truly are. In the grand finale, Mia decides to fully embrace her royal destiny. The Genovian Independence Day ball becomes the fairy tale setting where she's officially crowned as a princess. Her heartfelt speech about staying true to yourself is the cherry on top. The Princess Diaries is the perfect blend of comedy, romance, and the coming of age charm. It's not just about Mia becoming a princess, it's about finding your own voice and your own uniqueness.
Aw, love that.
Yeah, so that was the Princess Diaries. We'll throw the sources up on the show notes, but just a quick little rundown. I sourced shondaland.com, Wikipedia, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, thenumbers.com, Common Sense Media, and Metacritic.
Oh, thank you. I love that so much. I have to watch it now.
Yes, you have to. I just watched it for research, and honestly, it brought back a lot of memories.
Yes. Oh. Well, thank you guys for listening to the second episode of Posh and Plastic. And I realized I left out a big detail in our giveaway. So please go and rate and review the podcast, because not only will you enter yourself in the giveaway, we are giving you a free episode, a bonus episode. So if you're listening today on the first day we launch, not only are you getting 3 episodes, you can get a 4th episode. And Amber, what are we talking about in that episode?
The Queen, the icon, Britney Spears.
Yes. So that is an exclusive for those who rate and review the podcast. So again, rate and review, send us a screenshot, poshandplastic@gmail.com, or just send the screenshot in our DMs and we will give you the link to our bonus episode. But until next time, which we have a 3rd episode up, we will catch you later.
Bye, guys.